Thank you for taking the time to scroll through my Twitter page. In just under 5 minutes, I will be breaking down whether Godbout and colleagues, 2016, claim is credible or not. Their study claimed that early childhood exposure to parental maltreatment increases the likelihood of dating relationship violence and victimization during adolescence and emerging adulthood. It is important to understand the mechanisms of abusive relationships in adolescence and emerging adulthood to prevent high prevalence of relationship violence. Strong credibility will allow policymakers to create effective education and prevention programs for youth, parents, academic institutions, healthcare providers, and the general population. However, researchers often produce studies that are not credible or replicable, which is why I will be looking at 3 research articles to critique the claim. Before I analyze the articles, let me define some key terms. Maltreatment refers to cruel/violent treatment of a person, such as neglect. Victimization refers to a state or process of becoming a victim. Adolescence refers to ages 13 to 18, and emerging adults are people between ages 18 to 25. Now let's look at the objectives and findings for each article. Pott and Markham examined how early socialization, family social structure, and relationship dynamics can influence young U.S. college students' experience of physical dating violence victimization and perpetration. They found that children who were neglected and witnessed domestic violence between parents predicted victimization in dating. The children who did not witness domestic violence or came from 2-parent household were less susceptible to imposing physical aggression in dating. Izagirre and Calvite examined the association between exposure to violence at home, such as witnessing domestic violence between parents or victimization by parents, and CPV and dating violence. They found adolescents who act aggressively in one type of close relationship will act aggressively in other close relationships. Ibebi and Elgaraiga looked at interparental violence exposure in early adulthood as a predictor of dating violence. They found that interparental violence exposure in college students is associated with dating violence, mediating by CPV and sexism. Now, we will be looking through the lens of conceptualization, methodology, and generalizability to assess the credibility of the claim. Conceptualization refers to how researchers are identifying terms/concepts/ideas in their study and provide a unified explanation of these concepts, allowing researchers and audience on the same page. In Ibebi and Elgaraiga study, dating was defined as couple who don't live together, not economically independent from their parents, don't have well-established relationships versus romantic intimate couples who are committed, marital, or cohabitating. IPV was defined as violent behavior between current or former members of a couple that is incidental or due to an ongoing pattern of physical aggression, coercion, threats, and/or control, regardless of gender. Terms and concepts were explained well. Izagirre and Calvite did not clearly state terminology dating, IPV, or CPV definition. Pott and Markham measured dating as a couple that lasted at least a month in their relationship. They also defined intimate partner violence as the use of physical threat and force. In the article, adolescent dating violence as form of IPV. Ibebi and Elgaraiga stated child-parent violence is when a child is aggressive towards parents and is aware of their violent behavior. Izagirre and Calvite didn't define CPV. Pott and Markham didn't assess CPV. Instead, looked at witnessing domestic violence between parents and experiencing punishment from them. There was inconsistency in conceptualizing terms in all articles because of cultural variance, methods, different scales, and language translation. The audience isn't clear how each researcher defines the claim. Methodology describes the strategy and rationale of research, looks at 1, the procedure, and 2, study design. Ibebi and Elgaraiga conducted a cross-sectional design. There was no directionality between parental violence, COV, and dating violence. Izagirre and Calvite did a longitudinal design. The design had short intervals of 6 months. It needed longer interval and more number of waves. Pott and Markham did a cross-sectional design. There was no direction between relationship change affecting violence, victimization, and perpetration. All 3 articles used self-report. Adolescents can't accurately and validly report their own experiences. However, parental reports can also downplay their child's exposure to IPV. Cross-sectional designs don't show directionality of the claim and can't make causal inferences. Longitudinal study can make causation inferences but need longer intervals and time periods. Self-report wasn't used, so participants could be biased, compromising external validity. Generalizability refers to what degree can you apply the study results to a broader context. Ibebi and Elgaraiga looked at 847 college students ages 18 to 25, where 33% weren't living with parents. This sample represents Spanish population, not emerging adults or adolescents in workforce only. Izagirre and Calvite recruited 845 adolescents ages 13 to 18 from 6 different schools and 3 different regions and communities in Spain. The college context in Spain cannot be generalized universally. Pott and Markham recruited 3,495 U.S. college students ages 18 to 25, 70% were females. The data was collected from a survey from 32 nations. The sample represented 16 public, private, rural, urban, suburban universities and colleges. Overall, all articles had large and diverse sample for population of interest, but can't be generalized to other cultures or context. Also, social desirable responses are more likely in college culture. Also, Izagirre and Calvite stated that Spanish culture has harsh parenting, so shouting, annoying, and bothering parents was not CPV. Contradictory, the Spanish study of Ibebi and Elgaraiga did assess verbal CPV. This cannot be generalized to other cultures, like American, that think shouting is abuse. Based on the 3 articles and the 3 concepts, the portrayal of the claim is still too shaky to be considered completely credible. More research is needed on directionality, better longitudinal design, and improving demographic questions and sample diversity.